Sydney is, I think, at his base level, he's an outsider in comparison to most of the characters in this film, and he's a talented artist, a musician, and he's somebody that's always, I believe, always had to have a bit of a chip on his shoulder just to protect himself and protect his personality and the things that he does care about. And in the moments in the film that we are able to see a kind of inside view of who Sydney is, it goes by so quickly just because based off of the conversations Damien and I had about him, we don't want to ever give off too much about Sydney. I think it's fun when an audience gets to kind of try to figure out who this person is. And I think most of the time that we do see Sydney in the film, it's this image that he's portraying to protect himself. But he ends up earning an opportunity in a weird way to get much more exposure and to become one of the first stars that are a person of color. And he's kind of trying to figure things out as he goes along because there is no one else that he can kind of look at to research and study as far as how to behave and how to carry himself in Hollywood. He's one of the first in this context of the story. So getting to play that, I guess, does give you a bit of creative license and freedom because in this world, in this universe, he's the earliest, the first. He's before Louis Armstrong. He's before Miles Davis. He's kind of the inception of the musical movie star. That's the thing that's been consistent in his life. Perhaps maybe not love or friendship or companionship, loyalty, whatever, but I know that in his heart, and again, these are among the conversations that me and Damien tried to have about Sydney, is that at the end of the day, he always has his music, he always has his horn. So as much as you get to see Sydney, whenever he's holding the trumpet, I wanted it to feel like that was like a piece of him. And that's something that he wasn't easily ready to, disregard or not pay attention to. I think the biggest obstacle for me was to remain focused because there were specific shots where Damien really wanted to zoom in on my playing. And if I just let my eyes wander or if I just took my focus off for a moment, you could run the risk of, one, being out of line of the mark that they really absolutely need you to be perfect on so that the camera's there, or the camera could hit you, which I did not want. I don't think anybody wanted that. So I was trying my best just to center myself and focus. This is a person who's a minority who's coming into a predominantly white industry, and I think more than anything, Manny and Sydney connect just off of the pure hunger of survival and wanting to be able to take care of themselves and to possibly take care of their families. I think Sydney respects that. I don't think Manny's the type of person, at least when they first meet, that's going to try to pull a veil over your eyes. I think he's a straight shooter. He's hungry and he's intuitive and he's clever, but I think that there's definitely a connection of respect for Sydney towards Manny and vice versa, I think. My coach that I ended up bringing on, Dan Fernero, brilliant trumpet player, so brilliant, but more importantly, so patient with me because it's so hard learning an instrument if you don't read music. So we really had to find a practical way of him transcribing the music for me, which again, brilliantly composed by Justin, who I'm also a fan of. So it's really cool to get to play some of the songs off of a soundtrack from somebody who I've listened to all of his soundtracks. It's really cool. But yeah, we found a number system for the valves and just being able to learn it by visual memory. So my teacher would play it on a high definition camera, and it would be in person. I'd be there in person, but I would take the videos home, take the music home, and just have to learn it and commit it to memory, watching it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again until I was sick of the song. And then also being able to understand the breath. When you're playing any brass instrument, any wind instrument, it's really hard to hit certain notes and not breathe. Breath is everything. So you see guys that'll be up there hitting those squeals and then they can just jump back into like another note without taking a breath. Impossible. And my teacher, or Dan, has been playing 30 plus years, and you can see when he's hitting a note that it still takes so much out of him. So I think that type of preparation was important because then it enabled me to, we're talking about creative license, being able to adjust how much difficulty. I wanted to express playing these songs because Damien wanted Sydney to be like once in a lifetime type of talent. Like he's able to hit that high C or that transition with half a breath, where the average player would need a breath and a half or 2 beats of breath. He can quick back into it again. So to be able to fine tune it, you have to learn everything. Actors want to be challenged and they want to be able to showcase an arc. I think if you're playing something one noted, it would be easy to become bored and less enthused about coming to work every day. But again, to kind of piggyback on the prior question of why I took on the job, is because one, I was getting to surround myself with artists that I really respect, and that I've watched since I was young. But being introduced to new talent as well, and just getting to be involved in something that absolutely needed to be achieved or could only be achieved with a team effort. You know, it's easy to jump into something and you have like one star and it's like, well, it lives or dies on that one person. But having a machine where every small piece of equipment needs to work in unison for it to be successful, that's kind of like cool. Like I'd like to be just that little piece right there that helps that piece, that helps that piece, that helps that one, so that we make something beautiful. It's like an orchestra. It sheds light on what we're seeing in real life. I think that it's the opportunity for diversity to be able to bring new aspects and new stories to the limelight, and I think we get a piece of that in the scene where, you know, they're like, oh, what we're hearing, there's a heightened interest in Negroes in films and things like that. I think that can literally be mirrored to the transition of making a conscious effort to tell different stories by different people from different walks of life. And it's just a showcase of what not to do, of not to just do it for the sake of, again, virtue signaling and for the novelty of it, and then tossing it aside and going back to what always works. I think it's always going to be of everyone's best interest to keep things interesting, tell stories that we haven't heard before. Justin knows I'm a fan. And again, me being obsessive and a perfectionist, which is just the worst way to be. It's good because you know that you'll always push yourself, but then sometimes it's to a fault because you just never are satisfied. And I would just always Justin, how was that? Justin, if it's wrong or if I missed a note, I would like to know. And he would be like, no, it's great. And then I'd be like, and he'd be like, oh. He understood, so he would always, if it was beneficial for the performance for him to fine tune one little thing, he would do so. But if not, he'd just be like, Jovan, just have fun, man. Play the music that you know. You've been drilling it enough with Dan. Have fun now. And then once I get to that place, I was right in my sweet spot.